Medicine Master Buddha Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life. 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 Medicine Master Buddha. Okay. Again, welcome everyone. I forgot to press recording earlier. I remembered halfway through while singing Medicine Master Buddha's name. So today we are going to go back to the vows. We were on the fifth vow in the last class. I just have a few more things to say about the fifth vow, and then we can go on to the sixth, seventh. Let's see how much time we have. Also, I promised that we would talk about the rabbit in the moon story. Someone reminded me, said, Fasher, you said you're going to tell us a story, but you didn't. So today we will get to the rabbit in the moon story. It is not my story, it's actually the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha's own story, which he told. We will also, I was also reminded that we haven't finished the 32 major hallmarks of the Buddha. I did some more research. I have a few more notes about that, and we can continue on that too. As usual, I'm going to ask again, do we have any questions? It doesn't have to be related to the sutra. As Carrie's question earlier, some of you who joined, you heard me speaking to Carrie. It can be any Dharma related question. Even if it's, as long as it's related, Anyone? You can chat box or you can just unmute your mic. I'm going to count 5, 4, 3, no? Okay. Just remember, when it comes to questions, you don't have to social distance. Okay, if you look at your screen in front of you, I'm highlighting that. Let me increase the size. Oh. Okay, so let's just read the fifth vow again. All right, I'm gonna put my palms together. The fourth great vow. I vow that in a future life, when I attain Bodhi, I shall enable limitless and boundless numbers of sentient beings who cultivate Brahma conduct within my Dharma to perfectly uphold the 3 clusters of precepts without exception. Should there be any violation, upon hearing my name, they will regain their purity and not fall into the evil destinies. So today, when I was thinking about today's class this morning, I realized that the power of this vow, the fifth vow, is that you don't have to be afraid to practice. For example, CDTB, DRBA, we announced that we are going to transmit the Bodhisattva precepts. And then now with COVID-19, we're not quite sure if it's still going to carry on, or in what shape or form, or when. But anytime we have something like that, say taking refuge, 5 precepts, taking the 8 precepts, taking the Bodhisattva precepts, even say thinking about leaving home, okay? It is very normal to have a sense of trepidation, of fear, because you know that you are doing something that's really heroic, And the counterpart of that is, are you able to do it well? Okay, so that's normal. So what Medicine Master Buddha's vow is, he says that if you are sincere and you really wish to practice, because we are not perfect, right? So we know that if we undertake such precepts or walk on the path, we are bound to make mistakes. And of course, when we make mistakes, we are afraid of the offenses, especially since we don't really understand cause and effect. We don't see, we can't connect the dots of the causes and the effects. So out of ignorance comes fear and doubt. So what he's trying to say is, don't worry. He says, as long as you have a good, sincere intention, he will protect you and enable you to succeed. So he says, should there be any violation, upon hearing my name, they will regain their purity and not fall into the evil destinies. So don't worry about mistakes, just worry about not going forth in your practice. Yeah, so that's something you have to, how do you say, I feel that is really, really important. Yeah, because doubt always accompanies, whenever someone has the opportunity to really do something in the Dharma, there's always doubt. Okay, now I'm going to try to see if I can scroll down to the, see how much I can scroll down. Okay, I think that's good enough. Okay, the sixth great vow. I vow that in a future life, when I attain Bodhi, if there are sentient beings whose bodies are inferior and whose faculties are imperfect, who are ugly, dull, blind, deaf, mute, deformed, paralyzed, hunchbacked, or afflicted with skin disease, insanity, or various other sicknesses and sufferings, upon hearing my name, they shall all be endowed with upright features, keen intelligence, and perfect faculties, and they shall be free of sickness and suffering. Okay, so my thoughts on the sixth vow is that it describes people who usually society shuns them, or we don't really, I wouldn't say despise, because that's not everyone despises people like that, but we see them as lesser because their faculties, okay, let me say, bodies are inferior, okay, that means not complete, and faculties are imperfect. What are faculties? Our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, or our tongue, taste, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, our body, and finally our intellect, our mind. Why do we see these people as inferior? Because that's how we function in the world, through our faculties. And if we have impaired faculties, it means that sometimes it gets in the way of our abilities, physical as well as mental. So I think there's a tendency for people like this to be looked down, because we don't understand why they're that way. We just see them, and what we see is that they are incomplete, inferior, they're lacking. In our ignorance of not understanding cause and effect and why they came to be this way, because of ignorance, we lose our compassion and loving kindness. Yeah. So Medicine Master Buddha, before he became a Buddha, he how you say, he wants these people to know that he will never forsake them, that he will do whatever it takes to help them become normal, or become free of sickness and suffering. So what he does is he wants to give them hope in a world that cannot really help them. We have modern science and medicine that can, somewhat compensate for any of the lacking, like prosthetic arms if you're missing an arm. But there's no one there that gives you that confidence that what Medicine Master Buddha is trying to do. Yeah. So if you see some of this, imperfections that are being described. I was reading the Earth Store Sutra yesterday, and chapter 1, 2, 3, chapter 4. In chapter 4, Earth Store Bodhisattva, there's a chapter about how Earth Store Bodhisattva teaches living beings, and it's connected to the 6th and the 7th vow. So let's go read the 7th vow. Okay, flip. Okay, the 6th and 7th vow are very closely related. Okay, the 7th great vow. I vow that in a future life when I attain Bodhi, I shall cause sentient beings who are oppressed by many illnesses and who are without aid, without a place to turn, without a doctor, without medicine, without relatives, and without a family, who are poverty-stricken and filled with suffering, to be cured of their sicknesses upon having my name pass by their ear, so they are peaceful and happy in body and mind. They will have a family and relatives, and acquire an abundance of property and wealth, and even realize unsurpassed Bodhi. So 7th vow is, I find, is very similar to the 6th vow, but it concentrates more on illnesses. So in the Buddha taught us cause and effect to help us understand the rules or the nature of samsaric existence, meaning being reborn again and again and again without being in control in a world of duality and discrimination. So everything that happens to us is a result of things that we have done before. Done how? Through our body, speech, and mind. So through everything that we say, through everything that we do with our hands and feet, and through our thoughts that we create in our minds, the effects come back. We think that we do something, if no one sees, or after we've done something, it disappears. Cause and effect doesn't work that way. Cause and effect says that everything you do intentionally plants a seed in your 8 consciousness, which is where all the karmic seeds are being kept. And some of these seeds come back and they dictate, for example, the body that you are born into, your mental faculties that you're born with, the name, the family that you're born into, the sex, whether you are born male or female, and all this is based on what you have done in your past and previous lives. Okay, so Earth Store Bodhisattva says, if you problems of insanity that was mentioned in the 6th vow, what causes insanity? Hunting. If you like to hunt animals, then the retribution in a future or future lives will be insanity. And then Earth Store Bodhisattva also says that if you like to hunt a lot, one of the retributions may be accidental or untimely deaths. What are those? Shufu says that these are deaths that are violent, premature, and totally unexpected, such as like car accidents. Shufu said airplane explosions, drowning, being burned in a fire. These are all known as untimely deaths. So hunting is no good. And then if you like to slander But slander is trying to damage people's reputation by saying things that are not true. I guess slander is also when it's true and you purposely create, you like to talk about people's faults. And the retribution for that is that you are born mute. You are unable to speak. And also you have cankerous mouths, which means that you always have problems with your mouth, like a lot of ulcers. Cankerous usually means ulcers, but I think here it means also illnesses of the mouth. Yeah. And then Astor Bodhisattva says, if you are a very hateful person, if you have a lot of anger and what's that, animosity against certain people, and you always dwell on those thoughts and you cannot let them go, you're just very hateful, and that hate causes you to see these people as less than human. You don't even regard them as human beings, therefore you wish that bad things happen to them. And instead of, you imagine yourself reacting with happiness if bad things were to happen to these people. That's kind of below human level behavior. Anyway, the retribution for being hateful is that you are crippled and ugly. And/or ugly. Yeah. So don't be hateful, because being hateful, Shufu says, makes you look really ugly. Your face, someone who's full of hatred has a very ugly face. And then someone who likes to slander the triple jewel, saying that the Dharma is useless, or that Mahayana Sutras didn't exist. For those of you in Asia, you don't really have that problem that much, but in the West, a lot of Buddhism is spread through academic circles, like universities, and they have Buddhist study departments and programs. And the whole point of being in academic study is they like to go into historical data. Okay, how am I going to put this? Okay, say like the Shurangama Sutra. You all know, or some of you are familiar with Shufu's commentaries about the Shurangama Sutra. So there are people who are Buddhist academics who study the Shurangama Sutra from a historical point of view, and they say that, it cannot be proven that the Buddha actually spoke this sutra. And they say that most likely this sutra was invented or written by someone in this period during this dynasty in China, and it's a compilation of different of different sutras, and it is not an authentic sutra. They say things like that. Whereas as compared to a practitioner, you approach the sutra with a view of how this can help me. What can I learn from the Buddha in this sutra that can transform and make me a better person? So in the West, a lot of Buddhism is spread through the academic side of Buddhism, which is one of the main reasons why Shufu wanted to set up DRBU. So some people, they end up slandering the triple jewel without realizing what they're doing, because their intention in doing it is not for practice. So they totally miss the whole point of the sutra at all. Okay, so if you slander the triple jewel, you gossip behind people's back, Shufu described it as backbiting, what you end up with is you might be reborn blind, deaf, and mute. So all your senses are taken away from you, because when you had them, you didn't know how to recognize wisdom, so you don't have them in your next life. Okay, what other things did Astra Bodhisattva say about cause and effect? They say if you do a lot of killing, you will end up with short lifespans. Say this might not be like earlier, where through an accident, but say through an illness. Yeah, usually through illness. Yeah, it creates a short lifespan. And then he said that if people in poverty, people who are poor and never seem to be able to have enough of what they need, this is caused by stealing or robbing. That means taking things that do not belong to you. It also includes using people's things without their permission. So for example, say land. Okay, I have a piece of land, and there's another, so outside of my boundary, that land does not belong to me, and it could belong to my neighbor, or it could be unclaimed land, or it could belong to whoever, the government, the state park, and without asking for permission from whoever is responsible, I use their land. I might plant vegetables, I might build something there, I might use it for something. That's considered using other people's property without their permission. Or you borrow somebody's things without asking them. In a future life, you will experience poverty. And if you practice harsh speech, if you like to scold people, you like to make people feel bad, you're not careful with, and you don't know how to be kind in your speech. When you speak, people's face get unhappy instead of smiling. Then the retribution will be, in the future life, you will have a family that's always quarreling. You know, they're never in peace. Everything is about, no, you did it. That's a retribution for practicing harsh speech. And anything to do with the throat, for example, hunger, thirst, sickness of the throat, as the Bodhisattva says, is because you were being a glutton in a previous life. What's a glutton? A glutton is never having enough food. Yeah, you know those moments. I don't know about all of you, but I have experienced it myself. When you're absolutely full, okay, you're absolutely full, but you just want one more bite of that thing because it's so nice. Okay, a glutton does that all the time. Even when you are full, you still want and you continue to eat. That's a glutton. If I'm not mistaken, in ancient Greece, they had food orgies where the food was always was never ending. They had slaves or servants who kept on bringing you food, and you had a very comfortable bed. You don't even sit when you eat. You like kind of lie down and eat, which actually doesn't sound very comfortable, but that's what they do. They're reclining. Yeah, they don't lie down like in a bed, but they're reclining. And when they get full, in order to eat more, they actually make themselves throw up. So they vomit to empty their stomach so that they can continue eating. So those are gluttons. And the retribution is said as hunger, thirst, and sickness of the throat. Yeah. Talking about thirst, I have to take a really quick break and get some water because I forgot. Normally I have some water next to me before the class begins, and I totally forgot to do that today. I get nervous before class, so I forget to do something. So before I go, give me a few minutes. I'm going to go and come back. I'm going to show you this photo. Okay, this is about the rabbit in the moon. Maybe I can increase that. Do you all see the rabbit? Okay. Apparently, but I haven't investigated this. apparently, if you are in Asia compared to the other side of the world, like in Berkeley, they say that you see the moon differently. I'm not sure, because when I was young, I always was able to see the rabbit in the moon. But sometimes at CDTB, I don't see it. I don't know. But okay, just stare at this photo and see if you can see the rabbit in the moon, and then I'll come back as quick as I can. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Let me use my phone. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Anyone see? Okay. Yeah. Let me see. Okay. Saha says looks like a goat. I don't know. Goat. Catherine says the ears are on top. Okay, I'll show it to you when we talk about the story. Okay. Actually, you know what? We can go to the story now. Do we have any questions about the 6th vow and the 7th vow, or about cause and effect and illnesses? Regarding cause and effect, my plan is to cover that in a future class. We can go a bit more into detail about how to understand. It's called Yogacara, the eight different consciousnesses, and how we create cause and effect, and how it all works. Yeah, the whole mechanism of cause and effect. Yes, Saha, you have a question?
Amitabha. Dharma Master, my question is, what is the cause and effect if someone is born in a country where there is no Buddhism at all?
Oh, okay. Let me see. Hold on. It is actually in. Hold on. It is in the Earth Store Sutra. And okay, chapter 4. Okay, I'm scrolling for myself right now, not for you all to read. So I just read this. Okay, here. Let me increase the. Let me change how the pages are. View, page display, single page. Oh, that's too big. Oh, that's okay. Okay, let me see. I think this is it. Okay, here, right at the bottom of the page. Let me see if I can. Okay, to those with deviant views, he says that being reborn in undeveloped regions will be the retribution. I'm not quite sure. I would say I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure that undeveloped regions here means that places where there's no Dharma. And in the Saha world, not your world Saha, but the SAHA world, in the Saha world, in the northern region of Utaruku, I think it's like that. That there's no Dharma. Yeah, kind of.
Thank you, Dharma Master. Which chapter of Earth Store Sutra is it, so I can read about it?
This chapter 4.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
let me see. Yeah, I have Shufu's. This is Shufu's commentary. Let me see if they have it. If Shufu says anything here, maybe I'll share this in the WhatsApp group.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions? What are the causes for someone meeting with the Mahayana Sutras and feeling that they are wonderful and full of wisdom, and others feeling they are not special at all? Okay. This question is about people reading the Mahayana Sutras and feeling a connection with the sutras, whereas some people say if they are very much a Theravada practitioner, they read the Mahayana Sutras, but they feel that the suttas of the Pali canon are a lot more, makes more sense. and a lot more practical to them. Okay, so this depends on the, how you say, it. Okay, let me take 2 steps back. When the Buddha in the Lotus Sutra, remember we talked about the 3 cuts, the cut of the, what is that, the deer, the, not a goat, there wasn't a goat. Anyone remember when we talked about the 3 cuts in the previous class? Okay, anyway, instead of using the animals, the Buddha said that there were 3 cuts. There were 3, this is the burning house analogy or metaphor. Similarly, he wanted his children in the house to come out. So he told the children, he said, oh, I have 3 carts waiting for you outside. So it was, okay, so basically the 3 carts represent what? The 3 carts represent, one is the sound hearer vehicle, meaning the Theravada school, the school of the elders. People who want to end their own suffering. So they practice the Four Noble Truths. So that was the first card. And then the second card represented the Pracchika Buddha vehicle, which is people who have an affinity with the 12 conditioned links. They are also called solitary enlightened ones, and they, how you say, they become enlightened when there's no Dharma or Buddha in the world. And they get through that by observing nature, the cycle of birth and death, not just physical birth and death, but the birth and death of the mind in terms of the arising of thoughts. So that's explained as a 12 conditioned links. So people who like that, the Buddha explained the second card. And the Buddha said the third card was for the Bodhisattva path. I guess most of you who are joining this class, who find the Mahayana Sutras to be, to just make more sense to you. Yeah. And the reason why the Buddha had these 3 cards was because people were different. It's not a question of one is superior than the other. You can come at it that way, but that would be the absolutely incorrect thing to do, because you it doesn't make sense to do that. Yeah, you are just creating, Shofu would say, you're putting a head on top of another head. You know, the point of the 3 cards is people are different. Everyone's different. The whole point of the 3 cards is to get everyone, because we would, I guess, fall into these 3 categories. If not, there will probably be a 4th or 5th card. To come out of the burning house, to end our own suffering, so that we encounter the Buddha vehicle, so that we all, in the end, become Buddhas. So that was one of the big reveals, or the big things that the Buddha spoke of in the Lotus Sutra that he never spoke of before. So to this question, what are the causes for someone meeting the Mahayana Sutras? I don't know about other people, but you can look at yourself and ask yourself, what it is about me that likes the Mahayana Sutras? Is it because I care for living beings? Or, you know, just look at your own hearts. Look at the vows that you have made. Or if you haven't made any vows, investigate Earth-Star Bodhisattva's vows, investigate Medicine Master Buddha's vows, investigate Amitabha Buddha's vows, Guan Yin's vows, and finally, if you ask me, the king of vows, Shufu's vows, and see if any of those connect with your heart. And you know, I think this is a question that only people can answer for themselves. But don't make the mistake of trying to say superior or not, because that wasn't the point. Okay, there's another question. In the Chinese culture, it is a blessing to have food on the table, so gluttons can be those who are lucky and must have done good deeds before to not go hungry. It is just their greed for food that they want to eat more and more and not control themselves. How is it can cause retribution in the throat? Okay, wait, let me read this question again. This is from Su Wong. In the Chinese culture, it is a blessing to have food on the table, so gluttons can be those who are lucky and must have done good deeds before to not go hungry. It is just their greed for food that they want to eat more and not control. How is it cause retribution in the throat? Okay, there's a difference between being a good host and offering your guests more than enough food so that they're happy or they have different choices, as compared to gluttony is kind of like a sickness. Gluttony is you can never be satisfied. Even when you've had your fill, you know, to the extent that you have to throw up so that you can eat more. That's not normal. It is very different from, say, having enough food on the table as a sign of respect to your guests. Which I have a story. There was once when I went to China on a business trip. This was many years ago. Let me see. This was I don't know, like maybe 15-20 years ago. So here I was in China on a business trip, and business trip means business dinners where there's at that time I didn't take the 5 precepts yet, so a lot of drinking, a lot of food on the table, a lot of smelly tofu. We were in Shanghai, a lot of smelly tofu, chow tofu, and so there was a lot of food on the table, and one of the dishes was a smelly tofu with something else. I can't remember, or it was just smelly tofu. And I don't really get to eat smelly tofu, so I really liked that dish. And what I was going to do was I was going to clean the plate, meaning I was going to take all the food, all the smelly tofu off that dish of smelly tofu. And then my friend, who was more well versed with Chinese etiquette in China, said, "Please don't do that." I said, "Why?" Because she saw me reaching and lifting up the plate. When you lift up a plate, it kind of means like, you know, you're going to empty the plate. She said, you make your host look really bad, because if you finish a plate of food, there's an empty plate of food on the table, it's kind of like telling them there's not enough food. Yeah. And so I said, oh, I didn't know that. And of course, I didn't want my host to feel bad at all, because what they would do is then they would order more food in order to be a good host. So in cases like that, where the overriding, because of culture, they do it not because they are greedy, but because it's part of the culture. That's how you show respect. It's a very different thing. Yeah, gluttony is a mental. There's something wrong mentally. Yeah. Okay, how cause and effect works in terms of, is it literally, it means that you will have like retribution in the throat? I do not know, because I do not have the ability to see cause and effect in that detail. But I think what cause and effect also means, for example, say greediness. I've heard that if you are really greedy, then in your next life, you will be like not having enough. But not having enough doesn't mean you don't have things. It could be your mind. It could be a symptom of the mind rather than a physical thing. When I was working, I had a client, and I was very close to the client's son-in-law and daughter, and they told me that the father, who was the business owner, said that he would retire when he hit a certain benchmark, in financial benchmark. I think it was like 5 million. When he had 5 million in his bank account, he would be really satisfied and he would retire. But then when he had 5 million, it was not enough. 5 million wasn't anything anymore. He wanted he wanted more. And then when he had more, it was never enough. He wanted more. And then the company got listed on the stock exchange, and I don't know if they were exaggerating, but they said, oh, he's a billionaire now, but he still doesn't have enough. He still wants more. So you also have to see it not just in terms of physical, but in terms of perception and the mind. So for someone like that, having whatever he has is never enough. So it doesn't mean that he's poor. A poor person could be like that too, right? But it just means that no matter what you have, you cannot be satisfied. Oh, okay. What other questions? Please elaborate more and do in-depth on cause and effect. Maybe not the next lesson. It has to be. It has to correspond to the part of the sutra. And then I was thinking, question or remark, thinking about people who have no interest in Buddhist teachings at all, and they are good and intelligent people. Well, not all Buddhists are good and intelligent, and you don't have to be a Buddhist to be a good and intelligent person. Buddhism is just a label that we put. We don't own wisdom. Wisdom is found in all spiritual traditions. If you look at Guanyin Bodhisattva, Earthstop Bodhisattva, they appear in any form as long as they are able to save you. They can appear as Mother Mary, Jesus. They can appear as Lord Chakra. If it is said that if you pray to a spirit, they can appear in the form of a spirit in order to take you across. So even Guanyin, we don't own Guanyin, as Buddhists, because why? To the Bodhisattvas, labels such as this do not exist. What they look at is your they look at your virtues as a human being. Okay. Okay, so once I got this, that's fine. Okay, Fei Shan says, it's wastage not to finish the food you have on the table, isn't it? That's a different, it's a different thing, not finishing food. Okay, are you all ready to see the rabbit? I think most of you have by now. Where's the, okay. All right, you see the rabbit? Okay, so what's the story of the rabbit? Okay, so this was told by the Buddha himself, which is why I really like this story, because I grew up having another story in my head about the rabbit. It had to do with some goddess of the moon or something like that, and I always thought, how you say, every 8 lunar month, we have the children will carry the lantern. When I was young, we had it was made of what do you call it, wires, and around the wires the artisan would wrap colored transparent plastic paper, and then you put a candle in. Oh my god, I don't know how many lanterns I actually burned. And then later they replaced the candles with battery operated lights. Yeah. And there was a story, a legend about how the Buddha and the goddess of the moon or something like that. But this story I believe because, well, I have faith in the Buddha. Okay, so how this story came about. The Buddha was at Jetavana, and he was invited to lunch by a wealthy landowner. Yeah, you could say, like a maybe property developer. Okay, so he not just invited the Buddha for one day, but for one whole week. And he was very hospitable to the Buddha and all the bhikshus. I think about 500 bhikshus came. He said that he presented the Buddha with all the requisites. What are the requisites? Requisites are 4 things: shelter, food, medicine, and clothes. Yeah, the monk's clothes. So the Buddha praised him and said that generosity or giving is a tradition of the wise. And then the Buddha said that once a being even offered to sacrifice his own life to a beggar. And then the Buddha told this story. Okay, so a long time ago, the Buddha was born as a rabbit, and this rabbit had 3 friends, which was a monkey, a jackal, and an otter, and they all live in the jungle. So this rabbit, you know, because it was the Buddha in the past life, was not an ordinary rabbit. I think they were born at a time when animals could communicate to each other. And the rabbit, just by looking at the moon, realized that the next day was an Uposatha day. Okay, 5 points to anyone who can tell me what is Uposatha. Uposatha. That was in, I think, 2 classes ago, 3 classes ago. Anyone? Okay, I'm going to wait until tomorrow before someone answers. Okay, Uposatha Day is the precept, vegetarian precept observance. Yes, okay, Daniel, great. 5 points to Daniel. Is the if you take the Bodhisattva precepts, you observe the Uposatha days, the 8 vegetarian precept days. Okay, so yes, if a rabbit can understand that, and what he did was he saw the moon. He said, "Oh, tomorrow's going to be a full moon. It's a special day." And the rabbit, told his other 3 friends, the monkey, the jackal, and the otter, that tomorrow is a very special day. Therefore, if you come across a beggar, you should share your food with him and receive the blessings. He said that. So if a rabbit knows that, then you guys, all of you, should have no excuse, right? The next time there's an opportunity to take the 8 precepts, huh? Okay, so anyway, that's what the rabbit did. He told his friends. And the Buddha also said that this rabbit was very wise, and he always taught his 3 friends that they should always observe the precepts and to hold the Uposatha days, and to be generous. Yeah. Okay. So the next morning, the otter went to the bank of the Ganges River to look for fish, because that's what the otter eats. The otter eats fish. And he found 7 red fish. I don't know what red fish are, river fish, which was already strung together and buried in the wet sand. Apparently, a fisherman had already caught this fish. So what this otter did was, because he could smell the fish under the sand. I think the fisherman buried the fish because he didn't want anyone to steal the fish, and he had something else to do, and then he came back. But he probably didn't guess that the otter could find the fish. So the otter dug up the fish, and then the otter asked, look around. The otter was looking around, seeing if there was anyone. Then the otter called out. He said, "Does anyone own this fish?" And he called out 3 times to be sure. "Does anyone own this fish? Does anyone own this fish?" And he didn't get an answer because the fisherman wasn't there. So what he did was, he said, "Oh, this food doesn't belong to anyone." So he said, "Oh, so I guess it's mine." So he took the fish back to his sleeping area, so that when it comes to lunchtime, he would be able to eat the fish. Okay. Then the jackal was also out looking for food. And he came across a hut, and the hut was empty. He didn't see anyone. But what he did see was a roasted animal above a fire, and he said that there was also a pot of curds. Curds are from milk, made from milk. He did what the otter did too. He called out 3 times, "Does anyone own this food? Does anyone own this food?" And then when no one answered, because there was no one around, he said, "Oh, I guess this food can be mine." So he took the pot of curd, and he took that, it says it's a lizard. Someone was roasting a lizard, and he took the lizard and he took it back home with him, so that he can eat it for lunch. Then the monkey went to a mango grove where there were a lot of mango trees, And then he saw all the mangoes, ripe mangoes. He chose a few ripe mangoes and he took it home. Also waiting for lunchtime so he could eat. Now all these three of them, despite taking something that didn't belong to them, they thought that they were really virtuous. They said, "Oh, look, I'm so great. I asked around if this food belonged to anyone, and no one said yes." Okay. Then the rabbit's turn. Okay, the rabbit came out and started eating grass. It's called, in the story, it's called kusa grass. I think kusa grass is a kind of sweet grass. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the same kind of grass that was offered to the Buddha that he sat on underneath the tree. So he was munching on the grass, and then suddenly he realized, he said, say here I'm a rabbit, I'm eating grass, but it would not be fitting for me to offer grass if a beggar or a mendicant is like anyone who goes on alms round, like a monk. He said, if a wandering mendicant comes by, I cannot offer him grass. That would not be proper. And then neither do I have any rice or oil or any human food. He said, okay, if a beggar comes, I will give to him my own flesh. Okay, so this is a rabbit thinking that way. Remember we talked about pure giving in our last class? Okay. So this rabbit had no hesitation offering up his body if anyone came needing food. So as soon, the Buddha said, as soon as the rabbit had this idea, Lord Chakra in his heaven of the 33, felt his seat become warm. Okay, how that happens, I do not know. I'm just telling you the story like the Buddha shared it. And then Lord Chakra looked into why his seat became warm, and he realized that it was because this rabbit made such a selfless decision. So what did Lord Chakra think? He said, I want to go and test this rabbit. Lord Chakra seems... There are a lot of stories, actually I only know of a few, where Lord Chakra actually tests people. Yeah. Okay, so Lord Chakra said, I'm going to test this rabbit, but let me test the other, his friends first. So what he did was, he made himself look like a very old man. And then he came to the otter's den, where the otter was staying. And he asked the otter, he said, could I get something to eat? If I had something to eat, I could do my, my prayers and my ceremonies. And then the otter very quickly, without hesitation, said, yes, I have food. I have 7 red fish. And please eat as much as you want. Then the Lord Chakra, as an old man, said, okay, thank you. I'll probably come by later. Yeah. Then he went to the jackal's den. And again, the same story, the same thing happened. The jackal offered him the lizard and the jar of curds. And then he went to the monkey. Then the monkey offered him the mangoes. And then he went to the rabbit. And again, he asked the rabbit. He said, if I could get something to eat, then I can do my duties, my prayers and my rituals. And then the rabbit was very happy. He said, oh, Brahmin, you have done well in coming to me today for food. He said, although I have no rice, no oil, or no beans, today I will give you a gift I will have never given before, but it's freely mine to give. That means it belonged to him, not like the other tree. The other tree gave him food that they thought they obtained honestly, but wasn't actually theirs. So he said, so he told the rabbit, but the rabbit didn't tell him what it was. Then the rabbit said, okay, if you can go collect some wood and make a fire, and then when the fire is burning well and strong, call me. And then he said, I will gladly sacrifice myself by jumping into the flames, and then you may eat my body. So when the rabbit wasn't looking, Lord Chakra used his powers to create a fire. But this was not an ordinary fire. So he created the fire, and then he called the rabbit. He said, oh rabbit, the fire is ready. So what happened was, the rabbit 3 times he shook himself so that there were no insects in his fur. Why? Because he didn't want to kill any insects. All right, and remember we're talking about a rabbit. Okay, 3 times he shook himself so he was insect free, and then without hesitation he just leapt into the fire. And there's a version of this story that when he leapt into the fire, he let out a very happy cry, like, oh, because why? He could offer something that was really precious to him. And in the future, when we talk about cause and effect, I will talk about how a bodhisattva is able to also give up his body. Okay, so the rabbit jumped into the fire and realized that, hey, I don't feel any heat. Not only that, but the fire actually felt really comfortable. You know, he felt really comfortable rubbing around the embers. So he asked the Brahmin, he said, what kind of fire is this? He said, he said, it doesn't even warm the hair on my body. And then Lord Shakra revealed himself and said, oh, I am Shakra and I came to test you. And then the rabbit said, even if all the inhabitants on this earth were to test me in almsgiving, I would do the same thing. He said, they will not find in me any unwillingness to give. So Shakra was so impressed by the rabbit, he said, I will make your virtue known throughout this whole eon. Another version of the story says 3 eons. But since 1 eon is already long enough, it doesn't make any difference. So it is said, Lord Shakra reached out his hand and he took a mountain in his hand. He squeezed the mountain. Okay, this is where your imagination, you have to imagine in your mind. He squeezed the mountain with his hand. He took the essence of the mountain and he painted the image of the rabbit on the moon. So that for an eon or for 3 eons, everyone would know how great this rabbit was. So I really like this story a lot better than the other one, the goddess and the mooncake or the rabbit. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Okay, we are at the end of time for today. We are actually past time. Any questions before we end? Okay, so what I'm going to do is we are going to dedicate merit, and I have a question after that. It's about possibly rescheduling the class because I've spoken to some people and they have some thoughts. You don't have to stay after we dedicate the merit. You can leave if you want, and then we can continue with the discussion on WhatsApp. Okay, I'm going to put my palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Alright everyone, thank you for joining us today.